Everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Canada. And today I want to show you how I made the card that I shared as part of the Technique Tuesday blog hop. So the theme for this blog hop was all about inking techniques. And so I decided to dig out my re-inkers and do this smooching technique. It's been a long time since I've done this, and so I decided that I'd play around with this, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, so I wanted to share it with you. I use the wax paper technique. There's lots of different techniques that you can use for smooching, but I've used the wax paper technique. And if I can give you one piece of advice, and I'll say this again, is don't give up on this, because I was ready to throw these away because I thought, oh my gosh, they don't look very good. But you have to kind of let the ink move around and settle. And you'll be surprised at the effect that you actually get. So I'll switch over to my desktop and I'll show you my card. First of all, actually, I meant to say, if it's the first time you're joining me on my YouTube channel, thank you so much for finding me. I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when I do more videos. And if it's not your first time in my channel, welcome back and thank you for coming back. And so let me switch over and we'll get started. All right, this is the card. I'm just going to bring this up that I shared on my blog. I actually have two different versions of this, and I'm going to show you the other one that I did, and that will be the finished card as well. I used for this one, I've used pale papaya and polished pink as my colors. And then I've used the die from I think it's not called Dragonfly. I'll have to put what it is. It's one of the Dragonfly Wishes. It's part of that series that is from the annual catalog. And then I've stamped using the Biggest Wish, Hello Friend. Now I embossed this. You can't actually tell I've embossed it, but it is, solid on there. I think the embossing powder and everything is kind of just melted into the watercolor paper. I haven't embossed on watercolor paper for a very long time, but it's perfect. It didn't bleed in any other way. So again, this is the color. This is polished pink and pale papaya. And I said, don't give up on this, because when I first did it, I had big blotches of the really dark color, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's really ugly. You may not like this. It's really bold, but I tried to calm it down a little bit by putting a pale papaya background on it, and it is embossed using the Tasteful Textile embossing folder. I think it's striking, and I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. So let me show you. This is the stamp set that I used. I love this one with the big, bold block font and then the cursive ones as well. So this is the Biggest Wish stamp set. You probably can't see this. This is the Tasteful Textile embossing folder. And then these are the dies that I used. Again, I can't remember the name of these dies. It may be the ones that go with the Dragonfly Wishes stamp set, but it is that series. There are two bundles that go with that. Some great, really kind of abstract, but I love this one that I used. Okay, so those are the dies. Now, I'm just going to leave these here. I've got one already done. One of the tricks to this is letting it dry before you try and stamp on it. So I'm using watercolor paper, and our watercolor paper comes, I believe it's 7 inches by 5 inches. So I've just cut this in half. So you actually have enough for two of these, and you might as well try and do 2 as you're doing it. And then you've got 2 backgrounds to show. So I've got a piece of wax paper. So this is just regular wax paper, and I'm going to use the waxy side up. What you want to do is, now I'm going to do one in the polished pink. So you can do it either way. So what you want to do is just drop some drops of the re-inker. So that will be plenty. And then polished pink is the darker one. So you don't need as many of these. This is where it came out. Actually, maybe it won't do quite as bad as when I was doing it, but it came out in big splotches when I did it the last time. Okay, so now I've got this. and I forgot my water. So you want to spritz. I've lost my water. All right, I have to use this. I don't have my, oh, there it is, right here. I did have it. Oh. All right, I've got a spritzer, and I'm just going to now stand back. I'm going to stand back. Yesterday I got ink on me, so you just want to kind of spritz this with some water. Won't spread it around too much. And then you're just going to take your watercolor paper and lay it down on here. Now, see? Now, when I first looked at this yesterday, I thought, oh my gosh, these big blotches. But when it dries, it will, and you don't have to do the whole thing like I am. I'm actually going to cut this out using one of the scallop rectangle dies. So I'm just kind of getting ink all over it. There. So you can still see a little bit of the pale papaya in there. You've got these really dark splotches in the middle. But when this dries, it will give quite an amazing color. All right, I'm going to move this off to the side. The trick to this is letting it dry. So before you stamp on it, you really want to make sure this is very dry, and I actually left it for 24 hours. You may not have to leave it as long. You may be able to take your heat tool and use your heat tool to dry it, but you definitely want to make sure that it is very dry before you start to stamp on it, so that your ink doesn't start to bleed. If it's too wet, your ink will bleed. All right, so I'm going to do another one, and this time I'm using soft sea foam and Bermuda Bay. So I'm going to just do exactly what I did on the last one. I'm going to put some drops of soft sea foam, and I'm going to try and not put as much of the Bermuda Bay. We'll see how this works. This is, oopsie. For some reason. There we go. It's not coming out like I thought it should. All right, I'm just going to do 3 drops of Bermuda Bay. Now, what you do want is to have a baby wipe handy, because you do get ink all over. And my spritzer. And now I'll just take this other piece and put that down. Ooh. Ooh, isn't that pretty with the Bermuda Bay? Yes, so I'm going to do the same as I did, and I'm going to cover the whole thing, or as much as it is possible. Again, if you just want your smooch in the middle, your color in the middle of your cardstock, then you don't have to do what I did. All right, so now I've got this piece. Clean up my wax paper. Wipe my hands so I don't get this all over, because you do get it all over. Now, as I said, you want these to dry really well. So I'm just going to take these and move them off to the side, and then I'm going to bring out one that I did yesterday in the soft sea foam and Bermuda Bay. But I just wanted to show you how I did that. All right, try and clean up my ink here. Okay, so here's another set of supplies. So this is one I did yesterday, and again, this was soft sea foam and Bermuda Bay, and once it was dry, I actually cut it out using I believe this is the second to the largest scallop rectangle from the scallop rectangle. And I have done exactly the same. So I've got a background of soft sea foam for this one, just to try and calm down the color a little bit. All right, so I've got a piece of thick thick basic white cardstock. How many of you do that? I still call it Whisper White. All right, and I'm just going to adhere that to my card base. So the card base for each of these cards, this is 4 1/4 by 11 folded in half to give you a card base. So the other one I did, this is a tent fold. This was a kind of a regular fold. So this was 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 folded in half. Gives you the same finish measurement. And then the soft sea foam, and in this case was 4 inches by 5 1/4. In this I made it a bit smaller. So I did this one 3 3/4 by 5. All of the measurements and written instructions for this will be on my blog. So you can actually go out and get the written instructions and measurements. Okay, now I'm going to take Versamark. As again, make sure this is very dry before you do this. So Versamark, and I'm going to stamp the hello friend. So I'm going to stamp the friend in Versamark at the bottom, and then right above it I'm going to stamp the hello. Try not to get my head. There we go. And now I just want to bring in just a piece of grid paper. So I've got the black embossing powder. So Stampin' Up's come out with 6 embossing powders. They come in packages of 3. So one is the metallics, and you get silver, gold, and copper, I believe. And one is what they're calling the basics. And you get black, white, and clear. There. All right, let's get this back in before it spills all over, as I've been known to do. Oops. All right, and now this might be a little bit loud. I'm going to bring in my heat tool and try and talk over it. Now this is where I found when I did the last one, it looked great, and it's all great. It looks like it's actually stamped as opposed to embossed, but it seems like the embossing powder has kind of soaked into the watercolor paper. So you can't probably see this, but it's definitely looking like an embossed image. But as I carried on to get the whole words, we'll see if this one does the same thing. I lost the shine on it, so I'm not sure. This one actually is not doing, it is. So the longer I'm holding, so I'm going to stop. The longer I'm holding my heat tool over it, it's losing some of its shine. So we'll just leave it like that, and so it looks like it's embossed. Oh, last thing. So I cut out one of these great, I don't know what kind of plant it is. It's kind of cool though. Wish I'd had one of those in my garden. Maybe it looks like a dandelion that has had all of its fluff blown off. All right, I'm going to just use some multi-purpose adhesive glue to adhere this down. You don't want a lot of it. I'm going to try and just put a little dot on each of these dots to hold those down. They're kind of dots on the top of the piece. All right. Don't need a lot, as I said, so that just enough to hold it down. And now we'll use dimensionals to adhere this on. And try not to do it upside down. There we go. All right, so those are my 2 cards. So that's one technique, one way of doing smooshing. As I said, you can actually do it a number of ways. The other technique that I have seen used is where you take saran wrap or plastic wrap and lay down some color and then pick up, scrunch your saran wrap into a ball and then pick up the color and daub it on. So that's another way to do smooching. Okay, switch over. All right, so thanks very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, just leave a comment underneath my video or on my blog. As I said, all of the written instructions and measurements for these cards will be on my blog, and the link to my blog is underneath this video, so you can find it. So you can leave a comment either here or on my blog. I'd love to know what you think of this. And again, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. If it is your first time, I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do post on a regular basis new videos and different techniques. And so if you subscribe, you'll be notified. So again, thanks very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now. Happy stamping.